But Anfield cannot understand why he wasn't in the Arsenal team. But we're only too pleased because he's at our place now. Off the pitch, he's a little bit quiet, but his nickname is Leicester, which is to do with Lester Pickett, because Lester Pickett is not very easy to understand, and neither is Michael Thomas. You can sit in the bath and talk for 4 to 5 minutes, and the last year look at himself and start laughing and saying, "What's he on about?"
Jan Molby, 28, midfield.
I probably haven't played as many games as I would have liked over the years. I've taken a lot of stick for the way I look. Certainly take more sticks for how fast I run. But I believe that all that matters is not how fast you run, but it's how fast you think. And I believe that there's nothing wrong with what I've got upstairs. And I think if you can survive at a club like Liverpool for 8 years, you must have something.
Dean Saunders, 27, striker.
Scored some very important goals for us this season, especially in Europe where he had a tremendous run. The way Dean has done it this season with his 9 goals has been absolutely fantastic. He's the man behind most wind-ups, and he's sort of looked after Rob Jones since he's come here from Crewe, and it hasn't been easy for Rob because Dino sort of lures him into a sense of security where he thinks I can tell him anything, and as soon as they get in the dressing room, Dino's in the middle of the dressing room on the treatment table telling everyone what Robbie's been up to, what Robbie's been saying.
Stephen McManaman, 20, forward.
Had a tremendous season, got so much ability. Sometimes people say that when he does go past people, he doesn't really produce the right pass or the right cross or score enough goals. But I believe for a young lad, what he's shown this season has been exceptional.
Ian Rush, 30, striker.
I've got the privilege of sharing hotel rooms with him when we go away, and he is basically what we call the incredible moaning man. He's always got something to complain about. He does enjoy a little bit of a moan in the room if somebody knocks on the door and I don't get up to answer it. He starts moaning, going, "Oh well, I guess it's left to me again. Is it me again? It's always me." And he's like that all the time. But when you get to know him, you do it to wind him up. You make sure that you don't do anything and let him do everything, because you know you're going to let him get a little bit of a moan out of him. And I believe that the more he moans, the better he's going to play. So the less I do in the room.
Some of the inner secrets there of Liverpool, thanks to Jan Molby, who plays today, as you see. That's the lineup, and let's see the formation as we think it'll be. Alan Hansen, this is more or less right, isn't it? This is how they'll play.
When Burrows was having the interview there with Ray Stubbs, he mentioned Mark and himself would intimate to me that he'd be playing centre back. We'll have to wait and see.
With nickel fullback.
Yeah, they've played that before. But it's a sad loss for them that Barnes isn't playing. I think it must have been touch and go for him. They probably would have left it up to Barnes himself. And if he had been close to playing, I believe he would have played, because obviously the FA Cup final, you don't want to miss this one.
I think he said he'd be fit for a replay if there were a replay.
Yeah, I think it must have been touch and go for him.
Yeah.
But Liverpool started to come good. They played well against both Leeds United and Manchester United. And what must have pleased them was that they were making a lot of chances in both games, something that they've been failing to do all season. Again, they've got a lot of experience in the side. They've got 5 or 6 players that have been here before. And I felt the second time that I came here, even though we got beaten, I felt more comfortable with the whole thing. Sunderland's an experienced might go against them today.
Which of the Liverpool players stands out for you today, Bob?
Well, I think Jan Molby's obviously the passing player, Des. But the interesting thing is both sides are playing a 4-4-2, so what's going to be interesting, who cancels each other out, who gets the space and who does the good marking. And it's all to unfold yet, and I still back the Sunderland lads to make Liverpool go all the way, keep them very quiet in midfield. And I think the worrying thing from Sunderland's point of view is Rush hasn't scored a cup goal, and you feel a player of his ability has to score one somewhere along the line.
Yes.
But it'll be very interesting to see how the tactics work between the two sides.
We seem to have extra time almost every year, Jim, don't we? We've had it the last 3. I wonder if it's going to be that sort of day. 8
out of 11, I thought
8 out of 11, yes.
This morning,
yes, you heard it from me. You were obviously paying attention.
But this is a pitch, well, I enjoy your programme. This is a pitch on which you should get a result in a way. I think that little bit of extra liveliness in it may just add something. I think there will be a result. The difficulty is in deciding exactly what that is going to be at this stage before a cup final.
Well, I'll ask you in a minute.
Well, you're not asking me now.
No.
I'm pleased that Ray Houghton is back in the Liverpool side. Maybe they were resting him with a view to bringing him back at this stage. But he's such a busy player. And with Michael Thomas, who tends to wait his moments to go in to the opponent's penalty area and not take such a part in the midfield play. I think Molby can't do it on its own. I mean, you used to have passers like Whelan as well, Houghton. You know, there were so many cultured players there.
Michael Thomas deprived Liverpool of the championship once, and I wonder if he'll play a vital part today in winning the cup.
Well, he already has, didn't he? He scored against Aston Villa. But his
Yes.
forward runs have given Liverpool something extra that they were missing, I felt, from the middle of the park. But again, it's Molby for me. If Molby plays well, then with Barnes missing, I think that Liverpool will play well on the day. But we haven't mentioned Paul Bracewell yet. And I mean, he's played in 3 cup finals. And it's just a bonus for him to be playing at all because he thought his career was ended. And it'd be great for him to come here and win.
Sure. I wonder if anybody's played in 4 and lost in 4. I expect we'll hear from John whether that's so or not in due course. But it would be an awful record for the fellow, really. But
he was always the player's player. Paul. I mean, so quiet. Everything he did was right. When he was at Everton, everybody admired him so much because he didn't necessarily get all the glory. But a wonderful player to play with. Give the ball when you want it, simply. And really, I'd love to see Sunderland win for him alone today with the battle that he has had to get fit from those injuries.
Now, what about McManaman? Because he's had a good season. Then he got that injury in the semi-final. He was out. He had an operation on his knee, and here he is back, 4 weeks later? It's extraordinary.
They must think a lot of him to play because you've got Mark Walters there that could have played in that position. He's been out for a long time. He's only had 1 reserve game. I still think he's a bit lightweight, and the mere fact that he hasn't got that much weight, today's conditions might go against him.
OK, before we hand over to John, let's have your predictions then. Bob, starting with you, what's going to happen today? People remember this now, you know, they'll remind you of this for the next 5 years.
Taking Sunderland by the odd goal of 3 or 5. I'm having 2 guesses. 2-1 or 3-2.
To Sunderland.
I think there'll be goals. The conditions will merit goals today, the surface.
Alan?
I think Liverpool will win. I think they'll be too strong for them on the day.
Score?
2-0 Liverpool.
2-0 Liverpool, Jim?
2-1 Liverpool after extra time. Well, you wanted it precise.
Of course, absolutely. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. You've had all that and you've noted it down, I'm sure, and we'll remind those that were right and remind those that were wrong, usually. Right, we're all set then for the 1992 Cup Final. Let's join our commentary team of Trevor Brooking and John Motson.
Thank you very much, Desmond, and good afternoon, everybody. Trevor Brooking and I are not going to make a prediction at the moment. We've heard 3 very educated guesses there, but we have taken up our seats high underneath Wembley's rafters, privileged again to absorb the pomp and the pageantry which makes this the most colourful day on the football calendar. The FA Cup final, untouched anywhere else in the world for its enduring sense of occasion, and untouched as yet even by sponsorship. It's still the good old FA Cup, or is it? Because while Mr. Brooking was tucked up in bed last night having an early one on a Friday, and I was presenting another cup to a Barnet Sunday League team called Roving Reporters, there was a secretive spot of smuggling going on here at Wembley, I gather, that few witnessed, but which will change Cup Final Day forever. Because the old trophy, which has been handed to the winning captain for the last 80 years, has been laid to rest, battered with memories, I think. And in its place, an exact replica, the 4th trophy since the FA Cup started, and the one which will be presented for the first time today. Well, these 80,000 or so inside the stadium can't see it yet. They won't see it until 20 to 5 at the earliest, but we can see it because down there, hidden away in a dusty corridor, they're opening the safe door. And there is the new FA Cup trophy in use for the first time today. I wonder how many great deeds will be done in pursuit of that piece of silverware in the next 80 years. Well, back in the open air, and the rain mercifully has eased. 18,000 supporters from Sunderland, that was their ticket allocation, and 26,000 from Liverpool prepare now for this 64th Wembley FA Cup final. All-seater now, Wembley. Prices ranging from £15 down there near the fences to £90 these days, high up in the Olympic Gallery. And if you want another idea of how football inflation has gone, when Sunderland, I'm not sure he was here, but when Sunderland were last here in 1973, the official programme cost just 15 pence. And today, it's £5. Some of the handicapped supporters in wheelchairs there. I gather that Liverpool have ensured that certain tickets go to them, and they are among those lucky enough to have tickets, because every year, we say it, don't we, each time, thousands watching at home who follow these two clubs will be disappointed not to have got tickets for this occasion. But they will be joined by hundreds of millions around the world watching these BBC pictures in 47 countries. The estimated audience worldwide is 600 million. These figures boggle me every year. I think they get bigger and bigger. But I did get a letter this morning from a man who Trevor knows in Pahang in Malaysia, one Len Ashurst, who managed Sunderland the last time they reached a Wembley final in '85 in the Milk Cup. He also happens to be a Liverpudlian, and he's written to me on behalf of all our friends worldwide saying footballers and football people in all those countries where there are those who follow the English game will be glued to their sets today. It's also an occasion, this, when you bump into all sorts of old friends. Other ex-Sunderland managers who I've seen over the last 24 hours include Laurie McMenemy, now the assistant to Graham Taylor, and Alan Durbin, who had a very successful year at Roker. He's in the crowd today looking after Paul Bracewell's parents. I don't know whether it was trouble getting tickets when you were a player, Trevor. Did you manage to get your full allocation?
Well, there was never enough to go around. I think usually what happens, mostly your family and friends are after the seats, and of course in those days probably about a fifth of the tickets that you managed to get were seats, and the majority was standing, which perhaps wasn't ideal for certainly the older members of the family, and so generally that was the problem. Now of course with all-seater it's not so much, and I'm sure there've been plenty of old relatives that have contacted a few of the players over the last couple of weeks.
It's funny because I was at the Sunderland training ground, or out at Marlow yesterday morning, when Malcolm Crosby named the side, and the young lad on the bench, Warren Hawke, hadn't expected really to get the choice, and at the moment he was picked, his dad didn't even have a ticket. I trust he's had one given to him in the last 24 hours. But 18,000 doesn't go very far to a passionate area like Wearside. And they're just really starting to feel the full flavour of the afternoon now. The next piece of ceremonial activity will be the playing of Abide With Me, which of course is coming up in just a few minutes' time. And I suppose the dressing room nerves will be building all the time now, will they?
I felt this was probably the worst time now. You've gone out onto the pitch, sampled a bit of the atmosphere, then you go back in the dressing room and have to try and pace yourself to drag it out till about 2:45 when you get the signal to go out in the tunnel. I mean, normally you could get changed and ready in 5 or 10 minutes, but different lads go through different routines. Some have a little rub down, a massage, a loosen up, a few stretches. But the last 5 or 10 minutes, it looks as if the watch has stopped, because you now want to get out onto the pitch and get everything underway.
I must say, when that rain came pelting down for the most of the morning, we had the impression it might be a very unpleasant afternoon. It's brightened up considerably, but the pitch, as our studio lads were saying, is going to be slippery, and the ball may zip along a bit. Do you see that affecting the game in the early stages?
I think it's going to make the game better myself, because both sides are passing sides. I mean, Sunderland, when you've got Davenport and Byrne up front, both like it into feet. Davenport likes to twist and turn from his days in Forest and United. And of course, Liverpool, we know all about their passing game. And although Wembley doesn't have any bobbles as such, because it's such a good surface, the fact you have got that bit of rain, it is ideal for knocking the ball around. And I'm sure, as much as anything, though, when you're playing a cup final, in the first couple of minutes, you just want to get a good touch in. I know as a player, you just dread having a nightmare in an FA Cup final. So if you can get one or two early touches, find your own men, and that seems to settle you down and get into the match then.
Well, many memories stirred, I suppose, for you among other professional players on a day like this, Trevor. I Can't help referring back, and it certainly isn't trivia as far as you're concerned, that you were the player that scored the goal the last time a second division team won the cup. I don't know what John Lyle said that day to lift West Ham, but clearly Malcolm Crosby's got to do a similar job with Sunderland 12 years later.
Well, you never know who's going to score the goals. That's the beauty of the cup final. I was definitely an outsider. There weren't many putting bets on me before the game, and that's why somebody unexpected can just make themselves a hero. I mean, first of all, when you start off in a career, you want to play in a cup final if at all possible. Secondly, having played in it, you hopefully want to win. But I mean, to score a goal, let alone the winning one, is just a dream.
Well, celebrities here today, of course, extend way beyond the world of football. The Prime Minister, Mr. John Major, in the centre there, who I think is sitting next to Mr. and Mrs. David Moores. David Moores, the Liverpool chairman with the moustache, and his wife Marge. David took over the chair this year at Anfield, member of the well-established Moores family. Mr. Major, I think, rather like David Mellor, admits to being a Chelsea fan, but I think he can just join now with all the rest of us standing for the traditional cup final hymn. Douglas Hurd as well. Abide with me. Inappropriate, having heard that hymn, especially only 3 years on, not to say how much our thoughts and hearts still go out to those who suffer after what happened in the FA Cup to Liverpool at Hillsborough. Down in the players' tunnel, a shot there of Gary Hours. Sunderland will be changing their strip today. They'll be playing in the white and blue, having lost the toss. And I recall Bobby Gould, I think, talking to Bob Wilson earlier today on the balcony up there, saying how Wimbledon came out the tunnel late to keep Liverpool waiting. Well, the gamesmanship not the same this year. Both captains in the shot. Paul Bracewell nearer to us in the white tracksuit top, and Liverpool on the far side are wearing a set of shirts to come out in, modelled on 1920s style. That's because they want to mark the Liverpool centenary, which is being celebrated this year, and the shirts are the style that Liverpool wore when they won the championship twice since succession in the early 20s. And Steve McManaman having a word with Mike Marsh. What a year it's been for those two young players. They were almost unheard of a year ago, and here they are now in the cup final squad. But then quite a few of the Sunderland team are hardly household names even now. There goes Gary Bennett. And the men who you'll see at the front when they hit the pitch, what a day it is for them. Ronnie Moran and Malcolm Crosby. What price would you have got against these two men leading out the cup final teams when the competition started? Ronnie Moran, 43 years at Anfield, standing in today for Graham Souness. And Malcolm Crosby, only appointed manager permanently a week ago, and he took over at the turn of the year as caretaker. It's a fabulous reception again. Teams will take the customary line-up for the anthems and to be presented to the royal guests. Now then, where is Mr. Souness going to go? That's been one of the great quiz questions of the last 24 hours. And he's come out last. And looks as though he's going to be somewhere on or near the bench to me. Are you surprised by the decision to come down here by Souness?
Well, I think you'd just be as tense if you were sitting watching it on television, and I'm not surprised he's here. As long as the doctor said definitely no, he's given him the option and he's here.
Also here, their Royal Highnesses the Duke and Duchess of Kent. And there have been already references made to the fact that they were here when Sunderland last won the Cup. But I've also heard little whispers that the Duchess is a Liverpool supporter, so that should even that up. And here come the royal party in preparation for the national anthem and the presentations. Sir Bert Millerchip, the FA chairman, just shepherding the Duke of Kent across to the Liverpool captain Mark Wright, and a chat first of all with Bruce Grobbelaar. Good week this for English football, with the announcement that the European Championships are coming here in '96. Graham Kelly there, the chief executive of the FA, will be delighted about that. In fact, he was talking to Bob Wilson earlier. And Her Royal Highness just going down the line of Liverpool players, talking to Steve Nicol. Of course, Nicol and Grobbelaar have been here, what, 3 previous FA Cup finals. It's not new to them. Jan Molby there, who played against Everton here so well in '86. And what a day for Ronnie Moran. And not sure whether he's going to get changed into his tracksuit. He said he might do, Brian Clough style, when he gets to the bench. But there'll be lots of people in the game pleased for him today. Mark Wright in his first season with Liverpool, having assumed the captaincy. And now the royal party taken across to meet the underdogs from 2nd Division Sunderland. And it's the moment many of these Sunderland players have been looking forward to, and many didn't ever dream they would partake in this. Paul Bracewell doing the introductions. I don't know if you can spot any tense faces down there, Trevor. Are they giving anything away, do you think?
I think by now you've soaked it all up. The worst thing is being in the tunnel waiting for the signal. Then they didn't linger long, did they? They came out the dressing room, almost kept walking and went straight out. And once you're there now, one or two of the players would have looked up trying to spot their wives and friends and family, and now looking forward, I'm sure, to the kick-off.
Just want to mention the two linesmen there with the fairer hair, Rob Harris of Oxford, just talking there to the Duke, and John Hilditch of Stoke-on-Trent is the other linesman. And the reserve official is Kelvin Morton of Bury St Edmunds, and that's Philip Don, the referee, who is just introducing his colleagues. And now the royal party will be escorted up to the front row of the box in true Wembley protocol, and at last the players will get a chance to stretch their legs. And as the roar goes up, we shall check once again on how they line up. Liverpool, no Ronnie Whelan and no John Barnes. At number 10, 20-year-old Steve McManaman, the youngest man in the match, returns after his injury in the semi-final 5 weeks ago. And it's interesting to hear earlier the fact that Dean Saunders, I think one of the Liverpool players was telling Ray Stubbs on the pitch, Dean Saunders plays at Wembley for the first time. Their top scorer, of course, and the two substitutes, Mark Walters and Mike Marsh. As for Sunderland, as you've heard already, no doubt, Gary Hours wears the number 2 shirt in place of the injured John Kay. A place at number 6 for David Rush, who won't be 21 until next week. The unlucky man in the squad, really, Paul Hardiman, having played in every cup tie, he's now a substitute. And Rush, Hardiman, Rogan, Ball and Hawke, I think, are all new to Wembley, so there's perhaps a little less experience on the big occasion, as they would be from a second division side for Sunderland. Well, Mr. Brooking, who are going to be the key players?
Well, I think if you look at Liverpool first, and the